Deleted session, July 3rd, 1978. Now, young scientists endlessly, it seems, pursue particles, theorizing about them, so that you have particles with certain kinds of characteristics, propensities, and leanings. They unite to form, of course, the larger particles in the physical world. These particles are invisible to the human eye and do not appear in the mundane affairs of daily life. That is, you do not meet a quark on the corner, Rob noted with amusement. They said and say hello, how are you? State your name and business. You are familiar then with the idea that matter is composed of a conglomeration of particles that reach seemingly infinitely beneath the physical stuff of the world. The varieties of consciousness, the inner psychological particles, the psychic equivalent, say, of the atom or molecule, or proton, neutron, or quark, these non-physical, charmed, strange forms of consciousness that make experience go up or down, and around are never, of course, dealt with. If physical form is made up of such multitudinous invisible particles, how much more highly organized must be the inner components of consciousness, without whose perceptions matter itself would be meaningless. The alliances of consciousness, then, are far more vast than those of particles in any form. The atom, the molecule, the proton and neutron, the electrons, the quarks, and the other families of particles represent aspects of consciousness itself, which man then projects into the world of physics. I have mentioned counterparts in a very gentle fashion and the families of consciousness, as these are related to mankind. These are the largest psychological particles in the terms of our discussion. The problem is, again, that while you are focused in the world of matter, you are allied with only one aspect of your entire consciousness. In a way, you perceive your consciousness almost as you perceive the smooth surface of the coffee table. You even relate to your consciousness in an objective fashion. Many people feel that they have a consciousness in the way that they have a car. You perceive events in the same fashion, almost surface-wise. They are particles that move faster than light. They are portions of your consciousness that move faster than light also. But while you conceive of your consciousness as a kind of psychological particle, then your experience of it becomes limited to the world of matter in which you believe it must exist. In a strange fashion, of course, the word invisibility only has meaning in your kind of world. There is no such thing as true psychological invisibility, and basically consciousness can perceive without light in physical terms. Matter seems composed of mosaics of particles, interacting in electromagnetic fields. But the mosaics of consciousness interrelate in ways almost impossible to verbally describe. The physical world is dependent upon the relationship of everything from electrons to molecules, to mountains and oceans, from cultural organizations to private dreams. And in the scheme of reality, these are all interwoven with exquisite order, spontaneity, and a logic beyond any with which you are familiar. The counterpart idea is merely a small attempt to hint at that interrelationship. An interrelationship, of course, that includes all species and the forms of life. Ruber's idea of the four-fronted self is also an attempt to hint at that complexity in human terms. The so-called laws of cause and effect operate at a certain level of consciousness. The level of consciousness itself creates the experience of cause and effect. Other portions of your consciousness are quite actively, vitally engaged at other levels, yet there is no division between you and them. There seems to be only because of the beliefs that cause you to limit perception. Those beliefs, of course, include the experience of time as a steady progression from past to future. Time in those terms is simply part of another kind of event. You do not simply have, say, one past self or one future self, but many, for your consciousness shoots out, so to speak, in all directions faster than the speed of light. The consciousness of all species interact in that fashion also, as do, of course, the consciousnesses within atoms. Such communication takes place constantly, and for men and animals, it is particularly apt to in the dream state. The organization of the world would not exist otherwise, in any terms. Basically, then, your consciousness and your perceptions operate faster than light. For that matter, this of course applies to many important communication systems within the body itself, and to the constant alteration of cellular tissue and genetic material that would never be perceived through physical means. Consciousness that you recognize and call your own is the result of this faster-than-light capacity for communication. That is a natural attribute that is the main source of your being. Energy is constantly sent into the physical universe through such means. Give us a moment. I see that our friend walked unaided. The impulse to do so, of course, is always present. He is beginning to trace the source of his being. Further changes are indeed happening, as I said they would. There is direct and instant contact between yourselves and the source of your being. There is an intimate relationship between you and that portion of the universe that spawned you. That divine particle of consciousness that constantly grows into your being, that grows into what you are. You should understand that we have been talking about Framework 1 and Framework 2. Robert felt, and so did you to some extent, that it was easier to experience Framework 2's spontaneity in the mental realm of imagination. But you each felt that the physical body was tied somewhat more rigidly to the dictates of Framework 1, to cause and effect. In that era, Robert found it difficult to free himself. A thought, in those terms now, is as physical as a foot, and a foot is as mystical as a thought. The physical body must be born and die. Within that experience, however, there is full freedom, and regardless of any ideas Robert might have had, the body can right itself in a moment, regardless of how long, in your terms, it has been in difficulty. That is why I have stressed the importance of impulse and Framework 2's activity, for there you are not confined to cause and effect. Robert is progressing well with his psychological experience, and that is allowing the body's continued release. He should have a taste of a higher level of consciousness again, which further lifts him out of the cause and effect sequence. Some dreams he has forgotten have already begun to acquaint him with new developments. Change in sleep patterns are beneficial also, because quite without knowing it, you automatically tune your consciousness to the time of day, relating to it in a certain fashion, and the night walk offers a releasing pattern and alternating current almost. I will have more to say, broadening the concepts of counterpaths, though most probably in a different way than you might have supposed, and obsession, unless you have a question. Ralph said, I guess not. Ralph noted, I finally told Seth. I had a couple in mind, but I can't come up with them. Say it a hearty good evening and congratulations to our friend. Ron said thank you.